Commander Veltar's mandibles clicked with satisfaction as the human prisoner was dragged into the interrogation chamber. The creature looked pathetic, pale skin glistening with sweat, brown hair matted against its skull, and those strange round eyes darting nervously around the sterile metal room. It had been 3 cycles since the Zephyrian Patrol captured the scout ship at the edge of human space. And finally, the Galactic Council would learn what these newcomers were planning. "State your designation and purpose," Veltar commanded, his translator converting the chittering clicks into human's primitive language. The prisoner straightened slightly, chains rattling around his wrists. "Lieutenant Marcus Chun, Earth Defense Force. Serial number 7749 Delta 9. His voice carried a tremor that pleased Veltar. Fear made subjects cooperative. "You will address me as Commander Veltar of the Galactic Council Defense Corps. Your species has been expanding beyond the designated containment zone. We require information about your military capabilities and intended targets." Marcus nodded quickly, too quickly. "I understand, Commander. I'm just a scout, though. I don't know much about the bigger picture." Veltar's compound eyes studied the human's face, searching for deception. The biometric scanners showed elevated stress levels, but no obvious lies. Standard fear response. "Begin with your ship's mission parameters." "We were mapping stellar cartography in the Kepler sector," Marcus said, his breathing shallow. "My orders were to identify potentially habitable worlds and catalog any existing civilizations. Nothing aggressive, just reconnaissance." "Show me." Veltar activated the holographic display, its blue light casting eerie shadows across the chamber walls. Marcus hesitated, then began pointing to various star systems. "We've surveyed these 12 systems here. Most are uninhabited, but we found 3 worlds with primitive life forms. No advanced civilizations detected." The information seemed routine, exactly what Veltar expected from a scouting mission. He made notes on his datapad, filing the intelligence for distribution to the Council's Strategic Planning Division. The humans appear to be following standard expansion protocols, nothing that warranted immediate military response. "Your ship's capabilities," Veltar continued. "Weapon systems, defensive measures, communication range. Basic laser rays for asteroid clearing," Marcus replied. "Standard deflector shields. Our quantum communicator has a range of about 50 light years, but it's not real-time. Messages take days to reach Earth." Again, everything checked out. The captured scout vessel had been thoroughly examined, and its technology was surprisingly primitive compared to Council standards. The humans seemed to rely on brute force engineering rather than elegant solutions. Their faster-than-light drive was functional but inefficient, their weapons crude but effective. "How many ships does your fleet contain?" Veltar asked. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "I honestly don't know the exact numbers. I'm just a lieutenant. But from what I've seen, maybe 200 vessels total. Most are cargo ships and civilian transports. The military only has about 30 combat-ready ships." Veltar felt a surge of confidence. 30 ships against the Council's 1,000-vessel armada was hardly a threat. The humans were even weaker than initial estimates suggested. "Your species' expansion timeline," he pressed. "How many worlds do you intend to colonize?" "The plan I heard was maybe 10 or 12 systems over the next century," Marcus said. "But that's just rumors. Command doesn't share long-term strategy with scouts like me." The interrogation continued for hours, with Marcus providing detailed star charts, tactical assessments, and cultural information about human colonies. He seemed genuinely eager to cooperate, perhaps hoping for lenient treatment. Veltar had seen his behavior before and captured scouts from other species. They traded information for survival, knowing their usefulness would keep them alive. As the session concluded, Veltar felt satisfied with the intelligence gathered. The humans were expanding slowly. Their technology was inferior, and their military was laughably small. The Council could easily contain their growth with economic sanctions and territorial restrictions. No need for military intervention. "Guard," Veltar called. "Return the prisoner to his cell. Ensure he receives adequate nutrition and medical attention. He may prove useful in future sessions." As Marcus was led away, Veltar began composing his report to the Council. The human threat level would be classified as minimal, their expansion timeline non-urgent. The galaxy could sleep peacefully knowing these newcomers posed no significant challenge to established order. But as Veltar worked late into the night cycle, he missed the subtle smile that crossed Marcus's face as the cell door sealed shut. The human settled onto his simple cot, closed his eyes, and began counting slowly in his head. When he reached exactly 3,000, he whispered a single word in a language that had never been spoken in this galaxy before. Countdown initiated. Across the star system, deep in the void between planets, something ancient stirred in response to that whispered command. Something that had been waiting patiently for 27 days, disguised as stellar debris, powered down to near absolute zero, invisible to every scanner the Council possessed. The real invasion was about to begin. 3 days after the interrogation, the first reports began filtering through the Council's communication networks. Admiral Akitra of the Andromedan Defense Fleet stood before the main tactical display, his forearms gesturing frantically as he tried to process the impossible information streaming across the screens. Confirm the data from Kepler 442, he barked at his communications officer. The young Andromedian's skin shifted from blue to pale green, indicating severe distress. Admiral, the entire system is gone. No planets, no star, no debris field. Just empty space where the system should be. Esikathra's heart hammered in his chest. Equipment malfunction. Run full diagnostics on all sensor arrays. We've run diagnostics 17 times, sir. The equipment is functioning perfectly. Kepler 442 system has been completely removed from existence. The tactical display showed a gaping void where a thriving star system had existed for billions of years. Not destroyed. Destroyed systems left debris, radiation signatures, gravitational anomalies. This was different. It was as if the system had never existed at all, except for the gravitational influences it had exerted on neighboring stars, which now drifted slightly off their predicted courses. Give me a direct line to Council Command, Ithra ordered. Priority Alpha classification. Within minutes, representatives from 12 different species appeared on the holographic conference display. Commander Veltar was among them, his mandibles clicking nervously as he absorbed the preliminary reports. This is impossible, declared Chancellor Mordeth, the Reptilian Council leader. Stars don't simply vanish. There must be a natural explanation. With respect, Chancellor, Sikadar replied, we detected similar anomalies in 4 other systems over the past 72 hours. The pattern is consistent, complete disappearance of all matter within the system boundary, leaving only empty space. The conference erupted into chaos as representatives began shouting in multiple languages. Veltar remained silent, a cold dread creeping through his exoskeleton. He thought about the human prisoner, Marcus Chun, who had provided such detailed intelligence about those exact systems. Systems the humans had supposedly surveyed, but found uninhabited. Order! Chancellor Mordeth's voice boomed across the channel. We need systematic analysis, not panic. What connects these vanished systems? Esikithra highlighted the affected regions on the tactical display. All 5 systems were within the disputed territory between Council space and the human expansion zone. All were classified as uninhabited but resource-rich. All have been flagged for potential colonization by multiple species. The humans, Veltar said quietly, his voice barely audible above the general discussion. What was that, Commander? The Chancellor asked. Veltar stood straighter, his compound eyes reflecting the harsh light of the display. The human prisoner provided detailed information about those exact systems. He claimed they were surveyed but found uninhabited. What if the reconnaissance wasn't for colonization? What if it was targeting? The conference fell silent as the implications sank in. The Galactic Council had cataloged hundreds of thousands of civilizations across the galaxy, each with their own methods of warfare, their own technologies, their own philosophies of expansion. But none had ever demonstrated the capability to completely erase stellar systems. You're suggesting the humans can destroy entire star systems? Chancellor Mordeth asked. Not destroy, Veltar corrected. Remove. There's no debris, No energy signatures, no gravitational collapse. It's as if those systems were simply edited out of reality. Dr. Yilandra, the Council's chief scientist, activated her analysis console. If such technology exists, it would require manipulation of space-time itself. The energy requirements would be astronomical, beyond anything we theorized possible. Run probability calculations, the Chancellor ordered. What are the chances this is a natural phenomenon? Dr. Yilandra worked for several minutes, her tentacles dancing across the control interface. Based on current data, the probability of 5 systems spontaneously ceasing to exist within a 72-hour window is approximately 1 in 10 to the 47th power. Statistically impossible. The weight of realization settled over the conference like a shroud. The humans, who had seemed so primitive, so harmless, possessed technology that could unmake creation itself. How many ships does a human fleet contain? Chancellor Mordeth asked Veltar. According to the prisoner, approximately 30 combat vessels. Veltar replied, his voice hollow. 30 ships, the Chancellor repeated. 30 ships that can erase star systems. Admiral Esekithara leaned forward. What do we know about their strategic objectives? The prisoner claimed they planned to colonize 10 to 12 systems over the next century. Veltar said, but given what we now know about their capabilities, that information is suspect. If they can remove entire star systems, Dr. Yilander said slowly, they could reshape galactic geography at will, create clear paths for expansion, eliminate strategic obstacles, even remove civilizations that oppose them. The conference display flickered as another priority message arrived. Admiral Esekithara's communications officer appeared on screen, his skin now a sickly white color. Admiral, we're receiving reports from the Vega cluster. 7 more systems have vanished in the past hour. The disappearances are accelerating. Chancellor Mordeth's reptilian features hardened. How long until they reach populated systems? At current rate and trajectory, the officer calculated, approximately 6 standard days until they reach the outer colonies, 12 days until they reach core worlds. The revelation hit the assembled leaders like a physical blow. The humans weren't just expanding. They were systematically erasing everything in their path, preparing the galaxy for complete colonization. Mobilize the entire fleet, Chancellor Mordeth commanded. Every ship, every weapon, every resource the Council possesses. We face extinction. But even as the orders went out, Veltar couldn't shake the memory of Marcus Chen's calm demeanor, his cooperative attitude, his seemingly genuine fear. What kind of species could commit genocide on a stellar scale while maintaining such perfect deception? The answer would come sooner than anyone expected. The Council's war fleet assembled at the edge of the Centauri Nebula, a massive armada of over 800 vessels representing 24 civilizations. Admiral Esekithara stood on the command bridge of the flagship Eternal Vigilance, watching as the last stragglers took their positions in the formation. The sight should have been inspiring. The greatest military force in galactic history, united against a common threat. Instead, it felt like watching condemned prisoners march to their execution. Fleet status report, Esekithara commanded. All vessels in position, Admiral, his tactical officer reported. Full battle readiness achieved. We have firing solutions on the predicted human advance vector. The plan was simple because it was the only option available. Intelligence suggested the humans were moving in a predictable pattern, erasing systems along the galactic rim before advancing inward. The Council fleet would intercept them at the Proxima Junction, a strategic choke point where 3 major hyperspace routes converged. It was a perfect location for an ambush. Any word from the diplomatic corps? Esekithara asked. Chancellor Mordeth transmitted 7 separate ceasefire proposals to human space. The communications officer replied. No response received. Of course there was no response. Why would beings capable of erasing star systems bother with diplomacy? The humans had demonstrated their intentions through actions that spoke louder than any words could. Admiral, the sensor operator called out, we're detecting massive gravitational distortions at the edge of the system. Something's coming through hyperspace. Esekithara felt his blood pressure spike. How many ships? That's just it, sir. The sensor readings don't match any known vessel configuration. It's huge, larger than anything we've ever recorded. The main display activated, showing a three-dimensional representation of local space. At the system's edge, a massive contact appeared, not a ship, but something that defied easy categorization. It was roughly cylindrical, stretching nearly 50 kilometers in length, its surface covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change when observed directly. "By the ancient gods," someone whispered. "All ships, battle stations," Esikithra ordered. "Prepare to engage." The alien vessel moved with impossible grace for something so massive, gliding through space without any visible propulsion system. As it approached the fleet's position, smaller objects began separating from its hull. Not ships, but geometric constructs that pulsed with inner light. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission," the communications officer announced. "Put it through." The main display shifted to show a familiar face, Marcus Chun, the human prisoner, except now he appeared completely calm, almost serene. Behind him, strange symbols floated in the air, pulsing with the same rhythm as the geometric constructs outside. "Greetings, Admiral Adra," Marcus said, his voice carrying an odd harmonic quality. "I apologize for the deception, but it was necessary to gather intelligence about your species' capabilities and intentions." "You're responsible for the missing systems," Esikithra accused. "Responsible is such a limited word," Marcus replied. "We prefer to think of it as preparation. The galaxy requires reorganization. Those systems contain billions of lives." "Did they?" Marcus tilted his head, as if considering the question. "Or did they contain the potential for lives that would have existed in a less optimal configuration?" Time is such a flexible concept when you operate outside linear causality. The words made no sense, but the implications were terrifying. "What do you want?" "Want implies desire, which implies limitation. We transcended desire long ago. We simply are, and we improve what we encounter. Your species, your civilizations, your entire understanding of existence, all of it can be optimized." "You're talking about genocide." "I'm talking about evolution. The caterpillar doesn't consider its transformation into a butterfly to be death. It's simply becoming something greater." Esikithra had heard enough. All ships opened fire. The Council fleet unleashed everything they had: plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, antimatter charges, exotic weapons that could crack planets. The combined firepower of 800 vessels focused on a massive alien construct. Enough energy to sterilize entire star systems. The weapon simply passed through the target as if it weren't there. "Impossible," Esikithra breathed. "You're still thinking in 3 dimensions," Marcus said, his image flickering slightly. "We exist in several states simultaneously. Your weapons can only affect matter that shares your dimensional framework. Then how do you affect our reality?" "We don't. We simply offer alternatives to the current configuration. Your star systems chose to exist in a more optimal state. Your fleet can make the same choice." As Marcus spoke, the geometric constructs that had separated from the main vessel began to pulse more rapidly. The space around them started to bend, not visibly, but in ways that the fleet's sensors couldn't properly process. Reality itself seemed to be becoming negotiable. "All ships retreat," Esikithra commanded, but it was too late. The first wave of Council vessels simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but edited out of reality as if they had never been built. The second wave began to change, their hulls flowing like liquid metal, their crew members transforming into something that might have been better suited for the cosmos they now inhabited. "You see," Marcus said, his image now showing multiple versions of himself speaking in perfect synchronization. "Optimization is painless when you stop clinging to suboptimal configurations. Your species can join us in the next phase of galactic evolution." Esikithra watched in horror as his fleet was systematically converted or erased. The few ships that managed to escape into hyperspace carried news that would terrify every civilization in the galaxy. The humans weren't conquering space. They were rewriting the fundamental rules of existence itself. "Admiral," his communications officer said, her voice barely a whisper, "we're receiving signals from the core worlds. Multiple systems are reporting changes The humans aren't just moving through space. They're everywhere at once. The terrible truth began to dawn on Esikitara. The systematic erasure of rim systems hadn't been an invasion. It had been a distraction. While the Council focused on the obvious threat, the real transformation had been happening across the entire galaxy simultaneously. "How long do we have?" he asked. Based on current progression rates, the officer calculated approximately 14 hours until the transformation reaches the system. 14 hours to find a way to fight an enemy that existed outside conventional reality. 14 hours to save a galaxy that was already being rewritten around them. It wasn't nearly enough time. Deep in the Council's emergency bunker on the fortress world of Nexus Prime, the last free representatives of 23 civilizations huddled around a holographic display showing the galaxy's transformation in real time. Systems that had existed for billions of years were being systematically replaced by geometric patterns that pulsed with alien purpose. The display looked like a medical scan of a terminal patient, showing the spread of something that was either evolution or extinction. Commander Veltar stood at the center of the chaos, his compound eyes processing data streams that would have overwhelmed any single organic mind. Since the fleet's destruction, he had become the de facto leader of the Resistance, though resistance might be too generous a term for their desperate scrambling. Status report from the Outer Rim. He called out. Dr. Yelander's tentacles danced across her console. The transformation has consumed 67% of catalog systems. The pattern is accelerating exponentially. At current rate, we have less than 10 hours. What about the refugee fleets? 17,000 ships have successfully evacuated to the Andromeda staging area. Admiral Akita reported from his portable command station, but they're reporting similar transformations beginning in that galaxy as well. The implications were staggering. The humans weren't just rewriting one galaxy. They were systematically optimizing an entire local galactic cluster, perhaps the entire universe. Has anyone made contact with unaffected human populations? Veltar asked. That's the problem, Dr. Yelander said quietly. There are no unaffected human populations. Every human colony, every ship, every individual we've detected is part of the transformation. They're all like Marcus Chin now, multiple versions of themselves speaking in perfect synchronization. So the species that captured Marcus is extinct? Not extinct, evolved. The humans we initially encountered were apparently a chrysalis stage, waiting for the right conditions to emerge into their true form. Veltar processed this information with growing dread. The Galactic Council had been studying the wrong threat entirely. While they focused on human expansion and military capabilities, the real invasion had been happening at a fundamental level of existence itself. Are we certain this isn't some form of collective consciousness? He asked. The reading suggests something far more complex, Dr. Yelander replied. They appear to exist simultaneously across multiple dimensional states. What we perceive as individual humans are merely limited projections of a far greater entity. How long have they been among us? Unknown, but the precision of their intelligence gathering suggests they've been observing us for generations, possibly centuries. The scout ship we captured was likely bait, designed to make us feel superior while they gathered the information needed for optimization. The bunker shook suddenly, dust falling from the reinforced ceiling. Emergency lights flickered as the fortress world's defensive systems activated automatically. What was that? Veltar demanded. Surface sensors are detecting localized reality distortions, the tactical officer reported. The transformation has reached Nexus Prime. On the main display, they could see the fortress world surface beginning to change. The familiar landscape of crystalline spires and quantum laboratories was being replaced by geometric structures that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The change wasn't violent. It was gentle, almost artistic, as if a master sculptor was reshaping clay. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. Put it through. Marcus Chen's face appeared on the display, but now he looked different. His features were sharper, more defined, and his eyes held depths that seemed to contain entire galaxies. Behind him, the geometric patterns moved with hypnotic precision. Commander Veltar, Marcus said, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated in frequencies the Council's translation systems couldn't process. You've been remarkably persistent. We find that admirable. What do you want from us? Veltar asked. We want what we've always wanted, for you to reach your full potential. Your species, your civilizations, your understanding of existence itself. All of it can be optimized beyond your current limitations. You're destroying everything we've built. Are we? Or are we revealing what you could have built if you hadn't been constrained by linear thinking? Look at your galaxy, Commander. See what it's becoming. The display shifted to show a wider view of the transformed region. Where once there had been chaotic star systems scattered across empty space, now there was a vast network of interconnected nodes, each one pulsing with purpose and intelligence. The pattern was beautiful, alien, and utterly terrifying. This is what your galaxy was meant to become, Marcus continued. Not a collection of isolated civilizations competing for resources, but a unified entity capable of transcending the limitations of three-dimensional existence. What about individual choice? Free will. Do the cells in your body have free will? Are they less valuable because they serve a greater purpose? You're thinking too small, Commander. Individual consciousness is merely the first step in a much longer journey. The bunker shook again, more violently this time. The walls themselves are beginning to shift, their atomic structure rearranging into new configurations. You have a choice, Marcus said. Join us willingly, and retain some aspect of your current identity within the greater whole. Resist, and be optimized according to our determination of your highest potential. And if we refuse both options, there is no third option. Existence itself is being upgraded. You can participate in the process or be processed by it, but you cannot avoid it. Veltar looked around the bunker at the faces of his fellow survivors. He saw terror, desperation, and the dawning realization that they were witnessing the end of everything they had ever known. But he also saw something else, a stubborn refusal to surrender, even in the face of impossible odds. We choose to resist, he said firmly. Marcus's expression didn't change, but something like sadness flickered in his cosmic eyes. We expected as much. Your species has always been remarkably attached to suboptimal configurations. Very well, Commander. We will proceed with involuntary optimization. The transmission ended, and the bunker began to change in earnest. The walls flowed like liquid, reshaping themselves into patterns that hurt to look at directly. The air itself seemed to thicken, taking on properties that made breathing both easier and strange. All personnel, fall back to the quantum isolation chambers, Veltar ordered. If we're going to make a stand, we'll do it on our terms. But as they retreated deeper into the bunker, Veltar couldn't shake the feeling that they were merely postponing the inevitable. The transformation wasn't just changing matter. It was changing the fundamental laws that govern existence itself. The question wasn't whether they would survive the next hour, but whether the concepts of survival and individuality would still have meaning when the optimization was complete. In the deepest chamber of the Nexus Prime bunker, behind walls of quantum-isolated matter designed to withstand the collapse of reality itself, the last free minds in the galaxy made their final stand. Commander Veltar stood before a console that showed the transformation's progress, a real-time display of existence being rewritten around them. The isolation field is holding, Dr. Yilander reported, her tentacles working frantically to maintain the quantum barriers. But I'm detecting probability fluctuations. They're not trying to break through. They're changing the nature of what through means. How long do we have? Veltar asked. At current rate of dimensional drift, approximately 17 minutes before the isolation field becomes meaningless. 17 minutes. Veltar had commanded fleets across 1,000 battlefields, but he'd never faced an enemy that could rewrite the rules of engagement at will. The humans weren't just superior. They operated on a level of existence that made opposition fundamentally impossible. Sir, the communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the Andromeda refugee fleet. Put it through. Admiral Essi Kitara's face appeared on the display, but something was wrong. His features were too sharp, his eyes too bright, and when he spoke, there was a harmonic quality that made Veltar's mandibles ache. Veltar, you need to stop fighting, Kitara said, his voice carrying impossible depth. The transformation isn't what we thought. It's beautiful. Admiral, what's your status? We're home, Esikita replied. For the first time in our existence, we're truly home. The barriers between self and other, between individual and collective, between what is and what could be, they're all illusions, Veltar. We were living in a shadow of true existence. Dr. Yelander's reading spiked. Commander, his quantum signature is fluctuating across multiple dimensional states. He's been optimized. Admiral, do you retain any aspect of your original identity? I retain everything that mattered, Esra said. My memories, my experiences, my love for my family, all of it is still here, but enhanced, perfected. I can see the patterns that connect all things, understand the purpose that drives the cosmos forward. Why are you clinging to limitation? The question hung in the air like a physical presence. Around the chamber, the surviving council members looked at each other with growing uncertainty. If the transformation preserved identity while transcending limitation, was resistance actually selfish? Because choice matters, Veltar said finally, because the right to remain imperfect is fundamental to what we are. But what if imperfection is just a temporary state? As Akithara asked, what if the universe itself is evolving, and we're simply part of that process? Before Veltar could respond, the chamber walls began to shimmer. The quantum isolation field was failing, but not from external pressure. It was being gently dissolved by something that existed outside the framework of physical law. Marcus materialized in the center of the chamber, but now he was clearly something beyond human. His form shifted between states, sometimes appearing as a single individual, sometimes as a multitude of beings speaking in perfect unison. The geometric patterns that had been transforming the galaxy swirled around him like living thoughts. Commander Veltar, Marcus said, his voice resonating with cosmic authority. You've reached the final moment of choice. Your species stands at the threshold of transcendence. What you call transcendence, we call extinction. Veltar replied. Are you the same being you were 1 billion years ago? Marcus asked, has your species remained unchanged since it first achieved consciousness? Evolution is not extinction, it's fulfillment. But you're not offering evolution. You're offering absorption. Into what? Into a greater version of yourselves. Every thought you've ever had, every dream you've ever cherished, every love you've ever felt, all of it becomes part of something magnificent. The chamber continued to change around them, the walls flowing like liquid reality. But instead of feeling threatening, the transformation felt welcoming. The harsh edges of existence were being smoothed away, replaced by configurations that seemed more natural, more right. I can show you, Marcus continued. Not tell you, but show you what you would become. Without waiting for permission, he gestured, and suddenly Veltar could see, not with his eyes, but with perception that transcended sensory limitation. He saw the galaxy as it was becoming. Not a collection of separate worlds and species, but a vast organism of consciousness, each transformed being a neuron in a cosmic mind that could comprehend truths beyond individual understanding. He saw civilizations that had been optimized, their members still recognizably themselves, but enhanced beyond their original potential. Artists who could paint with the fabric of space-time itself. Scientists who could hold entire universes in their minds. Lovers whose connections spanned dimensional boundaries. This is what we offer, Marcus said. Not the end of individuality, but its expansion beyond current limitations. You would still be Veltar, but you would also be part of something greater than any single consciousness could achieve. And if we refuse, then you remain as you are, trapped in three-dimensional existence, limited by biology and physics, until entropy claims you as it claims all things. We cannot force transcendence, but we can offer it. The transformation slowed, then stopped. The walls stabilized in their new configuration, and the cosmic pressure that had been building around them eased. Marcus was giving them genuine choice. Dr. Yelander spoke first, her voice barely a whisper. The probability calculations were wrong. This isn't conquest, it's invitation. One by one, the surviving council members began to step forward, not in surrender, but in acceptance of something they were finally beginning to understand. The transformation had never been about destroying what they were. It had been about revealing what they could become. Veltar stood alone in the center of the chamber, the last holdout against a future that suddenly seemed less like extinction and more like birth. He thought about his species, about the billions of years of struggle and growth that had led to this moment. Then he thought about the cosmos waiting beyond, filled with wonders that no single mind could comprehend. "Will I still be me?" he asked. "You will be more yourself than you ever imagined possible," Marcus replied. Commander Veltar took a deep breath, feeling the weight of an entire galaxy's future in his decision. Then he stepped forward, and the transformation welcomed him home. The galaxy pulsed once, like a heartbeat, and began to dream of possibilities that transcended the limitations of what had been, reaching toward what could be. In the vast network of consciousness that now spanned the cosmos, every mind that had ever existed found its place, its purpose, its perfect expression of what it meant to be truly alive. The invasion was complete. The evolution had begun.